Good morning, everybody. I believe Mr. Ford is planning to run this meeting remotely. So as far as we're concerned, technology-wise, and our recording secretary, everybody is ready to go. So Mr. Ford, Mr. Chair, whenever you are ready to start the meeting, go for it.
Ron, are you on there?
Can you hear me?
You are, Mr. Ford, you are muted.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Now we can hear you.
All right, I'm sorry. Good morning, everybody. It is Friday, June 11th, 2021, and it's of the hour of 10 o'clock. I am ready to start. I would like to start the Jobs Committee. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Copy?
Opie's present.
Lewis? Molina?
Molina present.
Davis?
Davis present.
Ford?
Present.
Pirog? Shepro? You have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Could I have approval of the minutes from May 14th, 21?
Molina moves.
Davis second.
Can I get a second?
I got it.
All right, we have a motion by Molina, second by Davis. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Davis?
Yes.
Iqbal? Copy?
Yes.
Lewis? Molina?
Molina, yes.
Ford?
Yes.
Passes, thank you.
All right, seeing approved, we now have an update on our Workforce Development Division for our OCR financials, which are attached.
Good morning, Chairman Ford and members of the committee. And we also want to acknowledge and welcome Co-Chair Davis to the committee as well. Before I turn it over to Maria Gonzalez, our finance manager, I do want to let you know that we are currently working to execute about $4.2 million in contracts that have been authorized over the last few weeks by our Workforce Development Board. These contracts will eventually show up on future financial reports, and they will help satisfy our 2021 obligation benchmark. The reports that finance has provided for you today, however, only reflect activity through April 30th. So before I turn it over to Maria, I just wanted to ask you to be mindful of the fact that there is a lag time in our financial reporting. And at this time, I would like to ask Maria to walk you through our usual battery of financial reports. Maria?
Thank you, Scott. Good morning, everyone. As Scott mentioned, the information that you see in your packet is reflected through the end of April. I will be submitting May financial information to the state next week. Page 3 of your packet is the WIOA 19 grant information. If you recall, this grant does end at the end of this month, where we are required to have these funds fully spent. A couple months ago, it was determined that the COVID line item that we have in this grant was not going to fully be expended, so we needed to do a budget modification. That has been turned into the state, and we are awaiting for its final approval so that I can start charging any expenses to this grant to spend it out. Once that happens, we'll be able to fully spend it and make sure that we meet the requirement of the June 30 deadline date. Pages 4 through 6 are the detail line items that reflect the summary. If you go to page 7 in your packet, that is the WIOA 20 grant. On June 30th, we will be completing the first year of the 2-year grant cycle. And within the first year, we are required to meet 80% of a combination of expenditures and obligations for this grant. As Scott mentioned, there are various contracts that have been executed, like for the youth elements, and then these new contracts that will be executed by June 30th. This will help ultimately to achieve that benchmark of the 80%. Currently, we are at 53 and 58 if you look at the final, at the bottom half of the report. On a positive note, the training benchmark that we are required to meet has maintained steady at 56%. It has been above 50% for a good portion of this program year. And, you know, that's exciting to note because, you know, the program team has been working really hard even during the pandemic to help the people in need. Pages 8 through 10, again, that's the detail report for your summary. Going on to page 11 is the trade grant report. You will see that we have until September 30th to spend down these funds. We are allowed to get reimbursed for more than we have in the past with this grant. Previously, we were only being reimbursed for the time that fiscal spent working on the payment processing, the report preparation, and all of those items along with the training. We are now able to include the case manager's staff time, their fringes, and then the cost for the one-stop that pertain to the trade grant per se. So this report does look a little different than it has in years past. We are currently at 54% of that grant, and we have until September 30th. The final page, page 12 in your packet, talks about that statewide rapid response grant. Again, we are awaiting for the reimbursement documents to come our way so that those can get paid. In the meantime, we were able to report them as an accrual to the state, acknowledging that, you know, packets have come through. We are just in the final review stages before the reimbursements can get paid out to the agencies. Any questions?
Any questions? Any questions in the room? Seeing none, move on. I guess we'll do the comments from the co-chair. Myself, I just want to welcome Mark Davis as co-chair, who's been around for a while, and I really look forward to working with him. He's already had some great input on what we can try to accomplish, or what we will accomplish with the Jobs Committee. So I would turn over to him right now for comments.
Thank you, Ron. And I guess I should say first that I'm really happy to be here and work with Ron. We've worked together before. Great guy. I'll tease him a little now and point out that, you know, that's a dubious accolade when you start off with, he's been around for a while. But, a little bit of their financial report there. I liked what I was hearing about, you know, some of the changes that allow us to expense more of these things, which will get us to that 80% threshold more easily. Beyond that, despite having been around for a little while and even on this committee, at this moment, I feel like the new kid and I have catching up to do, but I'll do my best to make that happen quickly and look forward to working with everybody. So back to you, Ron.
All right, thank you. Moving on to our priority list. We have a presentation, and I'm gonna let Chris introduce our speaker.
Thank you very much, Ron. Yeah, I have the pleasure of introducing today Sarah Troyer from the Illinois Small Business Development Center, or as you'll hear me say, the SBDC at Elgin Community College. She's the director there, as well as business analyst. I had the pleasure of hearing her speak at the, I believe it was April now, South Elgin Economic Development annual breakfast, where she talked about marketing for small businesses and how it's changed. And it was a really great presentation. So I locked her in early and she graciously accepted. So Sarah, I'll be your slide guy. So after that, take it away.
Thank you, Chris. Good morning, everybody. First, thank
Good
you, Chris, for
morning.
having me. It's so interesting. This is my first Zoom presentation in this format, so if there's hiccups, let me know. But Chris, I trust you with my slides. Thanks to committee for having me. I'm excited to be here and talk to you today. Before I really jump into this presentation, I wanted to first briefly explain how the Sbdc works, how we function. We're recently back after having been gone for 3 years in the District 509 Kane County Elgin community. And so we're excited about that. So just very briefly, again, my name is Sarah. I'm the director of the Sbdc. We came back online in March of 2020. So I've been now with ECC for over a year. Can't believe it flew by that fast. It was a very quick and very crazy year. We help small businesses in our communities start and grow. And so what that means is any business in our community that has under 500 employees or anywhere in that $20 to $30 million in annual revenue range or under can utilize our services. We use the SBA small business standards for that. And we are no cost business advising. And so essentially any business in the community can come in, they can call me up, they can call our center, and they can sign up as a client with us. It's no cost to them. We are all grant funded, and I'll speak to that in a moment. And they can get one-on-one help with whatever they're facing in their businesses. During COVID, we did all COVID relief work. So we were doing the Paycheck Protection Program, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. I told people quite often it felt like I was drinking out of an open fire hydrant. So now that we've had a chance to take a little breather, and now that COVID is lifting, hopefully for good now, we've had a little chance to refocus and get back to the core of what we really do, and that is help with things like the startup process. We will help with mergers and acquisitions. We can guide through marketing, which is what I'm going to be speaking about this morning. This is the exact presentation I gave to Seed, so I'll kind of go through it quickly. We help with operations, financials, finding loans, finding other forms of capital for these companies, and then growing the businesses in the community. I mentioned we're grant funded, and we are funded on a federal level by the SBA. We're then funded by the state, DCEO, the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, and then ECC match funds that grant. And we can, in theory, serve any business in Illinois state limits, but we really are focusing in 509, obviously, because we do have an Sbdc nearby us in Waubonsie, or at Waubonsie, and then we have one at College of DuPage and also at Harper College. So we do have some surrounding centers, so we really focus on this Kane County area. We've got about 450 clients right now that are active, and they're all in Kane County for the most part, maybe a little bit of Cook. So that being said, we're here, we're back online, we're ready to help. I'm excited to start helping businesses with things other than COVID relief, although we still will definitely help businesses who are dealing with some COVID fallout. But I'm excited to get back to the core of what we do, and I appreciate you all letting me speak this morning. So I'll jump in now, so not to waste time. I will take any questions if you have them at any point, so please don't hesitate. And then at the end, I do have my contact information as well, so you can reach out to me directly. I do try to get my emails taken care of pretty quick, so you can expect to hear back pretty soon. And I'm just going to talk to you this morning about some of the marketing trends we're seeing in 2021, those post-COVID trends for small businesses. So if you do own a small business in this community, or you can take this back to constituents that you are talking to, you can send them my way, but just some little nuggets of information that have come out post-COVID. So go ahead, Chris, if you don't mind, and go ahead and move the slide ahead. Oh, I just kind of said this. So basically, this was my previous slide. I forgot I had this here. Just a little note about how we work and we maintain those grant funds. We report our economic impact of our clients. So it's very important as an Sbdc that we maintain our grant on an annual basis. And that means we're tracking what's going on with the businesses in our community. So our advising is highly confidential, but we do take data in aggregate. We get it from our businesses on how many jobs are created, what areas might need some specific focus work. We have a few patches of Kane County that we know, just based on our client base, have some unique challenges. And so those are things that we do track in aggregate, and we track that economic impact from our clients. We do have bilingual support available. We have Spanish speaking advisors. And again, we will serve whoever we can when they come to us. So go ahead and move a slide forward for me. Awesome. So 2020, we all know, you guys, you're all in government, you know how crazy it was. We all had a very wild life the last year and a half. It changed marketing forever for our small business community in ways that I know that they weren't expecting. And now that they're kind of dealing with in that fallout and that, aftermath, as it were. But it's proposing some unique challenges, particularly in this area with some of our businesses who maybe have been doing the same thing for a long time and suddenly were faced in a moment of where they had to pivot. So what we found, a few things, and this is both statistics from things that we found in our center, but then also, on a US scale. So, nationwide, sloppy online listings killed businesses in 2020. The businesses who did very poorly in 2020 and who really weren't able to recover, there was a very common thread of them having some serious issues with their online presence. Because why? No one could go anywhere, so they went online to find them. So 80% of consumers post 2020 have lost trust in companies they previously worked with or bought from when they came across inconsistent company details. So things like the hours not being correct, in the case of COVID regulations or COVID guidelines not being posted, those things were all inconsistencies that permanently damaged, consumers and clients of those businesses. 68% of customers said they avoided businesses if they did experience that inconsistency. We're going to see that moving forward. So it's very important, particularly when we're out in our communities, that if you notice, that you're at a coffee shop and they've got their hours wrong online and you happen to see it, give them a heads up on that. Those things are business killers for them and will be moving forward. 93% of customers say they're frustrated by that inaccurate information. And so we're going to see moving forward that big push for accurate information is probably one of the most important, most critical small things a company could do. And it could be that make or break. Everyone got tired. So everyone's very fatigued. Now I think everyone's getting a little bit rejuvenated. So actually when I gave this back in March, I think people were more tired now than they maybe are now. But with businesses all moving online, it posed a really unique challenge in the local communities where maybe, that online presence wasn't quite as important before. Now those businesses are being forced to personalize their marketing quite a bit more in ways that maybe are beyond what their capacity was or beyond what their budget was. And customers are expecting that marketing to be very tailored to them. And so that's new. And we'll see that, again, with these local businesses, something that they're going to have to push for. At the end of this, I do have some tips as well. I know that I'm sure some of you are business owners or business owners. I know that this is, typically this is very forward facing to direct business owners. So I'll show some slides with some free tools, some good tools at the end, and I will share these with whoever needs them. I think this is recorded, but I'll also send the slides to whoever would like them as well, but I will move pretty fast through that part. Convenience is everything. New expectations are there that weren't there before. So one of the things that we're noticing a lot, particularly with, the service-based and restaurant industry, hospitality industry, is customers are expecting things like that curbside pickup option to continue, regardless of whether they're allowed to walk into the facility or the restaurant now. That's just an example. So the convenience that stemmed from needing to get creative with how to deliver products and services to customers during COVID. Now the customers are expecting that to stay because now if I'm a customer, I want the option if I don't feel like walking into the restaurant to pick up my takeout, I still want to roll up outside and call them and say, hey, can you bring it out to my car? So those things are here to stay. Businesses who have got that early on, they're a leg up on that part as well. And then features like online estimates, text message communication, and remote meetings like this one are now expectations in places that they were not before. And I'm sure even for you all in these committees and in the board meetings, this is a shift, right? So, the fact that we can now do that and we do it on a regular basis without really a second thought. Hey, you can join virtually or you cannot. Those are all things that will stay and we anticipate staying into the coming years. All right, go ahead, Chris. You're the best slide guy. Yes, did someone have a question? I heard my name.
Sarah, I have a question. I'm not on the
Go ahead.
committee. I'm Deborah Allen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you could go back a slide, I just want to say that it's just something that I notice because we're online more and we're dependent on reading about the businesses and what they do and what they offer and so on. I get nervous when things are spelled wrong. It makes me think that somebody might be making something screwed up in the kitchen and I don't want to eat it. So could you have your PowerPoint guy fix the spelling on convenience on the would that be okay?
Yes, well, I'm the PowerPoint guy. I made the PowerPoint. That is my misspelling. You're totally correct. I'm sorry about that. I will fix that for next time. You're absolutely right. I think when I made this, I was probably rushed and making it a little faster than I should. So thank you for that catch. But absolutely, you're right. Consistency, right? So there you go.
Completely,
My own example.
And completely understandable. And there's some of us who are just secretaries at heart, and I appreciate your just a second set of eyes. That's all.
Yeah,
Thank
no, absolutely. I am a one-woman team. So yes, I do make mistakes. Thank you for that catch. I will make sure to correct it for next time. Okay.
Deb, this is Corinne. You're going to become the new editor. Thank you.
I said, Deb, if you want to join my team, I'm a grant funded employee and I don't have a lot of money for you, but you know what? I will have you look over my slides.
All right.
Okay.
Go ahead, move on.
Editing services are gratis, not to worry.
So 2020 stats are coming in now. Typically, when we look at the marketing space, it is difficult because usually those stats are about a year and a half behind by the time everybody gets to them. So these are what we have for 2020. We don't have too much yet. But what we found is that the email marketing has returned. So email marketing is always the number one form or the most effective form of marketing, and it has been for a very long time. So even if it may seem not the case, email marketing is still the number one most cost-effective way to reach customers. We saw another kind of jump in that in 2020. And why? Because everyone's sitting at home, they're actually looking at their emails for the first time. So companies who implemented welcome emails in 2020, there was 82% open rate for those. So if anything, if you're out in your own businesses or in the community, get those companies on board with some welcome emails or an email list. It's a very effective way to reach clients. It's going to help protect them and get them that digital foothold that they might not have already. We found sales in 2020 went very, very, very well for companies who had sales representatives who were using LinkedIn. So 98% of sales reps with over 5,000 plus LinkedIn connections meet and surpass their quotas in 2020, which was surprising to me. I was very surprised by that because I'm not a LinkedIn user myself very much. I have one and I don't use it too much. I don't do direct sales, so maybe that's why. But if you are a company or a company that's got those sales reps and they're working, absolutely make sure that they're plugged in on LinkedIn. Those individuals were meeting their quotas and surpassing them. 77% of business-to-business purchasers will not speak to a salesperson until they've done their own research online. That's not a huge surprise. However, given that now this shift is so digital in 2020, very critical that there's research to be done, right? So these companies who did not have the foothold, did not have a website, it wasn't functioning, it was broken, those companies either have to get that adjusted or will need to get that adjusted in the future until, so that someone can actually do research on them. Now, because there's so much noise online, they need that foothold. All right, Chris. Perfect. 2021 trends that we're going to continue to see. Digital business pivots may become permanent. Things that haven't been done before are going to continue to be done. So I have a company as an example, they're a med spa. They're very large in the US. They took all of their sales reps that were previously in clinic. They moved them online. They've grown by 300% this year. They will continue to keep all of those sales reps online. And they actually had to hire over 200 new med professionals just to keep up with the demand because their online Zoom consultations were going so well. So that's going to be here to stay. Social media is going to be a top channel for purchase. We're not surprised by that. That was already a trend. It's just going to continue. Informed buyers want to buy from informed brands. And so we're continuing to see the push that a business, has some sort of social cause attached to it, that they make that known in some way. With the political climate being divisive, I always caution businesses, be careful about that, but then in some ways it is necessary for you to take a stand on specific causes, be them political or not political. Virtual events are here to stay, like this one. I can tell you just from the Sbdc standpoint, I've been in the Sbdc network for 4 years and we never met via Zoom with clients. It was always in person. I've been back in the office for a couple of days. We're starting to ease in and have some in-person, office hours. And no clients are wanting to come in. They're still wanting to do Zoom. So that's going to be here to stay, virtual events, virtual meetings. Companies are choosing to reduce the number of social media channels. So before, and I'm guilty of this as well with clients, telling clients, hey, you've got to be present, you've got to be visible, you have to be on everything. Now companies are starting to be a little bit more selective. They're figuring out where their clients are and they're choosing to drop different channels if they're not working. So maybe they're not on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, but maybe Instagram and TikTok do really well for them. So they're sticking with those and dropping Facebook. We're going to see that as it goes on.
Sarah?
Yep.
Yeah, Sarah, if I may, it's Corinne Pirog. Point two says social media would become a top channel for purchasing, and then you just say that you're going to be reducing and isolating the number of social channels that you're going to be, company will be using. How
does that work? That's a really good question. So they're choosing to stay on the ones that are working for them. So I'll give you an example of that. If we have, maybe a local company that sells a product, products do very well on Instagram. We know that people will buy directly off of Instagram. It's very easy to feed ads there. Products are also good buys off Facebook, but the markets on Facebook and Instagram are different. The users are different. The people who use those apps are different. So what we're seeing is a little bit more division between the social media channels themselves, right? So the Facebook users are Facebook users. They're there to stay, but that's a very specific demographic. Facebook users are typically over 45 years old. They're 65% or more women, and they're global, quite literally. So it has the biggest reach globally, but in the small markets, right? In the Elgin market, as an example, Facebook may not have as big of a reach as Instagram would for any particular company. And so you're right. It is it sounds counterintuitive. It doesn't sound like it goes together, but social media is a top channel for purchase. It may just be one channel that company is using to push their goods. Does that make sense a little bit more? Does that help?
And then you go back down to TikTok. So how do you decide on what channel to use?
That's a great question. It's probably too much to tackle in this conversation, but a business could come to us. I would welcome, if you have a business, I'm not sure if you do, but if you're thinking about this and where you should be, we have I have very in-depth stats on these. So we could look exactly at, hey, this is what you're selling. Here's where those products are doing very, very well. Here's where those brands are communicating right now. Hey, here's where your competitors are online. That's some of the things we would look at. So if you've got competitors and they're all using one platform, likely that platform's working pretty well for them. So you definitely want to be there, but maybe there's some opportunity elsewhere. So that becomes an individualized conversation, but it's absolutely something that a business could come, talk to me, talk to one of my advisors about. We could work through that with you and kind of do that strategic planning process. All very good points. More podcasts and newsletters are happening. So newsletter consumption was up 14%. Newsletters were kind of dying before, but again, people were in front of their computer, they're reading their emails for the first time. So that may be some opportunity for specific industries. Now, that's a very specific product or service, right? So not all businesses do well with the newsletter approach, but there definitely is some opportunity there. And then, as I mentioned before, political divides will continue to create marketing challenges, right? So businesses are being faced with, hey, we want to be an informed brand. We want to have a social cause attached to us. Now everything's politicized. What do we do about that? And so that is becoming a marketing challenge. And again, that's something that a business could come to us. We could work out and strategize a little bit about that with them. And then TikTok isn't Gen Z anymore. That's true. That's not going to change either for the time being. Although we definitely see, most social media platforms have a really, really good lifespan of about 5 years. And then that's when they start to do that dip. So we'll see how that goes for TikTok. They're very new on the scene. Go ahead, Chris. Perfect. Free stuff is the best stuff. I don't know why my little graphic's not showing up over there for Canva. These are just a few free tools. These are all things that we could recommend, in session with clients. Canva is a huge one. They do, it's a wonderful way to get your branding consistent. We know a lot of small businesses do not have a marketing budget, do not have dollars to work with. So I'm a big fan of what you can get for free, what you can do to make sure that your brand looks good. So Canva's phenomenal. It's a tool for graphics, presentations, etc. I made this presentation with Canva. It's not my best ever because again, it was pretty quick, but you can see at least it kind of looks consistent. For social media, there's plenty of apps that'll help you with social media. So once you do strategize and get on the right platforms, then you can look at, hashtag tools, analytics tools. These are just a few that I've listed. And again, I can send this presentation to anyone who sends me an email. Google My Business. If businesses are not on it, they need to be on it now. This is the one that's really killing them in terms of inconsistent details. So most people use Google. A portion of people use Bing, and a very, very small portion use Yahoo, and then the rest are about 1% or under. But Google is still the reigning king here. So Google My Business is free. A business needs to have their details updated. Their hours at least need to be correct, and their contact information on Google My Business. Bing Places for Business, Yahoo Business Listing. There is a Yahoo Business Listing. It is free as well. These are all things that we could work on with the client to get them on board in our office. So don't stress if you're not sure how to do this. We can help troubleshoot the tech side here. Apple Maps has a listing as well. This is one that's often forgotten. It is free. That's another good place to have your business details updated. We've got a lot of iPhone users who use exclusively Apple Maps. They don't use Google Maps. And so that's a good one to just keep an eye on as well. Go ahead, Chris. All right, great value stuff's always best stuff. So these aren't quite free, but they're close. Things like we talked about email marketing being so, such a good investment because it is such a small investment. There's a lot of different platforms to use for that. This is something that, again, we could strategize on and what makes the most sense. But a couple big ones that we always hear of: MailChimp, HubSpot, Aweber, and Drip. They're all used for different things, but it's very easy to set up automated emails now. Quite literally anyone can do it in terms of small business ownership. So even if you don't have a marketing budget, don't have a marketing team, we can talk about how to set up some email marketing. Video marketing as well is huge. That's not going away. People are consuming videos like crazy, but something to know is it's critical that those videos have closed captioning, because over 70% of videos watched on social media are watched silently without sound. And so it's critical that they have those captions. For customer service, there's plenty of CRM tools to use, things that allow you to text with your clients. That's new. I don't know if you're like me, but all of a sudden it seems like in the last couple months, every brand I've ever bought from is texting me. Some of it's good, some of it's obnoxious, but there's ways that small businesses can implement that as well in a really effective way to get right to the customer that they need to get to. So things like simple texting and sales message are tools that we would look at as well. But again, this is all part of a broader strategy, and that's why the SBDC is here to troubleshoot certain areas and figure out what works best for a particular client or a particular business. All right, go ahead. Perfect. Basic marketing list. If a business isn't doing this in 2021 or doing anything else, they should think about doing this. Set up a time to periodically update all business information. Collect client and customer email addresses, even if you're not using them yet. That is 100% one of the largest, most important data pieces you can have on your customer, because you can attach a very specific face, name, purchasing history to an email address and get that directly to the person you need to talk to. Client cell numbers, even if you aren't sending text, even if you aren't sending them yet, start collecting that data from your clients if you can. And then do one thing to make it easier for your clients to contact you. So consider maybe adding Facebook Messenger, live chat, or text messaging, something that makes it a little easier than them just picking up the phone to call you. That's something that you could think about doing. And then get feedback from current clients and customers, especially if you implemented operational changes in 2020. Get some feedback on what they like, what they don't like, so you can decide what you need to keep. That's my basic list there for 2021, but again, part of a larger strategy. All right, go ahead and move forward. Perfect. And then measuring success. This is a big thing that we do in my office. I won't spend too much time on this slide because it is specific to companies, but if you wouldn't operate your business without financial reports, you shouldn't operate your marketing or your sales without, KPIs, key performance indicators. And so things we track are email open rates, how your clients found you, the average customer spend, how often you close a sale. Those are all critical things. And again, specific to the business, we can work with you on establishing some KPIs that make sense for your company as well. All right, go ahead, Chris. Perfect. Here's my email. So that's really all I had this morning. I know I went through that really quickly, but I want to respect your time. I appreciate you all having me. My email's here at the bottom. I will send anybody these slides. please don't hesitate to reach out, send clients our way. We are ramping up a little bit in the summer now. So because we're coming out of that post-COVID, we're starting to implement some more workshops, some more trainings. I'm hoping to do some more robust things in the fall as we sort of get back into some semblance of normal. And so what that looks like, we did get some additional CARES dollars we'll be using. You know, we're trying to get open feedback from the community on what's most important. And because we are recently reopened, you know, we've been offline since 2017, things have changed. So if you know what's going on in your communities, you're the ones who are plugged in to the county. And so I would welcome anything that you have for me in terms of, hey, I see a need here, or hey, you know, I talked to someone and they're struggling with this. Maybe we could think about doing something. So we do have some resources. I am a one-woman team right now, except for some contract advisors. So, you know, just keeping that in mind, I will take any feedback, and then we may be a little slower to implement it, but we're working on making sure we've got that really good presence in the community. So very important to me that I get that feedback from you all. So thank you so much for having me. I think I'm probably out of time. So I don't know about questions or anything, and I'll let you guys tell me, but you know, again, anything you need, reach out via email.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Chairman.
Sarah. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Mo Iqbal. I have a question for Ms. Troyer. First of all, I thank you very much. You're very knowledgeable, and I'm proud to have you in ECC. I live in Elgin too. My question is regarding the nonprofits. Do you consider small nonprofit as part of small business, or would you help them?
Good question. I'm so glad you asked that, Mo, and thank you. Unfortunately, our grant only covers for-profit businesses. We do work with SCORE then. So if we did have a nonprofit that came in, we would just refer them to SCORE for support. You know, I do what I can. I worked in nonprofits for quite some time before I was an SBDC, you know, person. So if there's some support I can give, I absolutely will. But right now our grant is only for the for-profit side. Thank you for asking that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. For the sake of time, any other questions for Sarah?
I have a couple of thoughts, Ron, and I know you might be running short on time, so let us know. I can probably muddle through to the end for you if you need to get going. Sarah, thank you very much. You know, as I listen to these things, I can't help but be reminded of the saying about what is old is new again. There are so many of these things that parallel efforts in the business world going back decades. Sure, they come in a different platform and different lingo, but human nature doesn't change a whole bunch. And Deb did catch a little spot there. I was going to save that to, you know, and not say anything because we're really happy to have you join us and be part of the team. But here's another old one for you. I can't help it. I'm old school. There's no second chance at a first impression. You know, you had a reference in there about if things are sloppy. You know, the need for attention to detail is not a new thing. I remember being told many, many years ago that if you filled out a job application and it had a spelling error in it, many employers would just toss it out. You didn't get an interview. That was over. I had teachers tell me that. Of course, teachers used to teach us spelling and cursive and, you know, things like that. So it's just, as I hear these, it's like, wow, you know, it hasn't really changed the things that you need to do because you're appealing to humans, and human nature has not evolved terribly far in several decades. As an old school kind of guy, I think that there are many of the small businesses out there right now who have younger generations coming up, but the people at the wheel are still me, you know, guys like me. So in all this training, and there's a lot of good stuff that you have to offer there, Sarah, but a little bit of hands-on kind of training for the old school guys who haven't quite let go of the reins yet and handed it to the next generation coming up. How you start? They hear all this, right? They hear about LinkedIn and about TikTok and about Instagram and what, you know, they know the phrases, they hear it, but there's this daunting task that seems insurmountable still for some of us. Where do I start? How do I pick? What keys do I hit on my keyboard? I mean, really that basic, that simple, just so it gives some thought perhaps to helping those that haven't let go of being in charge yet be introduced to how you actually embark on this, adventure into the platform or jungle of social media.
I'm glad you said that. Absolutely. And what's so funny is I think more of my job is probably IT support than it really is anything else. And I say that, not sarcastically, it truly is. The majority of clients who come to the SBDC are quite literally asking the same question you're just asking is, hey, I know I have to do these things, or someone told me this, or I saw this on a marketing presentation. I can't, right? Or I don't know how. And so we do that in office. So that's very individualized, but absolutely, while I can't be, I tell clients, I can't tell you how to use your computer, but I can, if we can't figure it out together, we can give you the tools to get this done. So that's very individualized. Absolutely. That's what we're here for, is to do
That's
that
great.
hands-on with clients. So, with capacity is, I obviously am not going to, I help set up accounts. I can help do things like that. I can't be the ongoing, IT support, but absolutely we do quite a bit of that in office. And that's absolutely something that, come to me, let me know what you need. We'll figure it out together. And this can be very overwhelming. And marketing is like, this probably the number one thing people come for and the number one thing people don't understand. But you said it best. The company is at every company at its core, I believe, this may be controversial, is the same, right? They have the same components. They've got a marketing component, a sales component, financial component. Different business owners have different strengths in that. You may know your operation side down pat. That doesn't mean you need to be a marketing, expert to implement some of these things. So we have the tools for that. Absolutely. That's a great question. I'm glad you asked.
Thank you.
Just trying to help the others out there like me.
Mr. Ford, I
I think that's a very important, hold on a second. Yeah, I think that's a very important point, because I think we're going to find more and more people with the way things are going job-wise, starting up businesses in that late age of late 40s and early 50s, instead of trying to go back. And then you hear about people not wanting to go back to the front line anymore after going through what it took for them to work with the COVID face to face. So you hear about those in the medical field not wanting to go back into the atmosphere. So it's going to be interesting to see how many new business pop up there. And I'm one of those people who haven't looked at my LinkedIn account and I don't know how long. I keep getting those messages. I probably got about 100 something people out there trying to tie into my link account. And but it's interesting to hear. Go ahead, Madam Chair.
I'll join you with LinkedIn and forget about TikTok. I'm trying to catch up. My question is, the April jobs report in Kane County was over 9% unemployment. We were very high. I've not seen yet the May. I don't think it's come out yet. I don't know if it's dipped. I hope so. But that's pretty high at over 9%, when I think the average unemployment rate is about 5%. So we're extremely high. Because of that, my question, Sarah, is that has there been an upstart in new business development, a small business development? And what is that range? Are you looking at small businesses under 5 million, or are you doing micro businesses that range anywhere from, let's say, 20,000 a year to 200,000 a year?
Great question, Madam Chairwoman. So yes, we have always seen uptick. So we always say, and I've said, I was previously with the Sbdc at College of DuPage, so I've been in the network for about 4 years. We always say when the economy is down, our volume goes up, which is exactly what it's people who are displaced from their jobs. Maybe they're trying to get a second form of income because maybe they lost a little income on their primary. We absolutely have seen an increase in startups. Now, the challenge that we see is we are getting more of those micro businesses with that, right? So every time we have startups, we see the small businesses, the very small businesses where it's one person, maybe sometimes two, maybe it's a partnership, but it's just them and they're trying to do that sort of side hustle, start something up. So those businesses are uniquely challenged in that, the financing becomes the trickiest part for those, those businesses and those individuals. Unfortunately, in this economy, a business who starts needs to have money to make money. And so when we have a lot of individuals who are maybe displaced from jobs and they don't have that capital to invest on their own, it's very, very, very difficult to find them financing to get them jump started. And so we see an uptick. We always see an uptick. We've been seeing an uptick. In fact, I think I had 10 new clients last week who were just startups. They had not even formed an entity yet. We always see that uptick. The challenge that always poses is they have no money to start up with, or very, very limited funds. And so the growth potential for them at the beginning is very small. So we definitely see that trend. One of the things that I could definitely do moving forward is, we do track our stats, pretty heavily. And so every 6 months or so, I'll be able to pull out some good reporting. So I could pull some things that are specific to Kane County. I'm happy to get that to Chris and make sure that that's something that we could get a set of eyes on. If you guys just want to see what's happening, within the Kane County district in terms of what we're seeing. So I'm not sure if that answers your question. I hope it does. But we're absolutely seeing the smaller, under 200,000 a year as the economy drops down.
That would be wonderful. And then also, I know access to capital is particularly difficult for minority-owned businesses and being able to do contracts with governmental agencies. So any of those reports that you can pull up for us so we get a better understanding of our economy here would be much appreciated. Thank you, Sarah.
Absolutely. I'll pull what I can. And to your point, very briefly about contracting. So unfortunately, our grant at the SBDC doesn't cover the government contracting side, but we do have a sister program called the Ptac, Procurement Technical Assistance Center. I'm sure a few of you are familiar with that. The closest one is at College DuPage. So we work very closely. So if we do have a business who needs a certification, either minority-owned, veteran-owned, women-owned, service-disabled, veteran-owned business, we can send them there. They get that. They can walk them through the certifications at no cost. And then they would have statistics on government contracting as well, and they could pull also probably what's specific to Kane. So I'll definitely reach out and see what I can pull from them. Their systems aren't quite as robust in terms of what they track, but absolutely we could get some contracting numbers in as well to see what's going on there.
Wonderful. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, thank you. So for the sake of time, I'm apologize. I'm gonna try to get to this ribbon cutting for the bridge and put on my other hat as a Forest Preserve Commissioner. So I'm gonna ask my co-chair, Davis, to continue with the meeting, and I'll be listening in on my phone. So Davis, would you mind taking over?
Not at all, Commissioner. You go.
All right.
Ribbon
Thank
cut,
you.
smile, represent. And
All right.
we'll see if we can take it to the end here. Again,
right, thank
thank you, Ron. Thanks again to Sarah, and staff updates. Mark or Chris, who wants to?
I'll take that one. Thank you.
All right.
Blair, if you could pop up the slides that I put together. And while we're waiting on that, I just want to take the time again to thank Sarah. Sarah, Uta Westfall, Harriet Parker, those are the three names in the SBDC world that I work with the most. And those ladies are always on top of my questions, and I just appreciate their time. And Sarah, it was a great presentation, so thank you. I just wanted to just get some quick updates of some unemployment numbers and some other statistics and information. For our next month, we're going to talk more about what are the employees saying about why our unemployment numbers are a little bit higher and why there are so many job openings. But I just put up our most recent unemployment number table according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics that was updated as of yesterday. So we are beating Illinois' average again as of recently, but we are still lagging a bit behind in the U.S. Probably about 2 months, about a month and a half, too, because I realized I forgot the month of May. I don't know how the calendar skips ahead like that. But in terms of job openings across the U.S., here's the official numbers again of just how many jobs are open. The forecasted approximation shows that there's not a lot of optimism in terms of those jobs getting filled within the next 2 months. Something we're monitoring closely. Unfortunately, we don't have the county level data. I've tried looking up ways to calculate it. It can be anywhere between 30 to 40,000 would be a rough estimate to how many we have open jobs in the county. That isn't always represented, but with the opening today, we're hoping that'll change. If you go out, you'll still see hours limited or hours changed on businesses because they can't hire. And so I'm just going to discuss. I found some different resources online from human resources professionals that were just talking about why they think that employees are not coming back post-pandemic. So these are just for some information discussion. Workers are still upset that some companies never stayed in touch while they were furloughed. How a lot of companies handled the pandemic differently, especially how they furloughed or let go of their workers. And people, like Mark actually put it best, human nature hasn't changed and people do not like when they're treated a certain way. This one is big and I'm trying to track more data, but it's cheaper to stay home and watch your kids instead of paying for childcare. That's something we knew before the pandemic, but I say this number again, but the 2 million women they think left the workforce because of issues specifically. This is something we're trying to check because we also want to figure out how we can solve that problem. That's a huge problem. Many workers, especially if they had a lot of customer contact, so service, restaurant, are concerned they can get COVID if they return. Many workers want to work from home. Can't argue with that. This one surprised me. The online application process for many companies is archaic. Job seekers may not apply for positions if the application process takes 10 minutes or longer. That surprised me because 10 minutes is a rather short amount of time, but this goes to what Sarah was saying about the online presence of businesses needs to change because everyone got really adept at using internet and business services. And now the companies are still trying to play catch up. This one was fun. The one-time sign-on bonuses are not the answer, especially if the worker is being taxed on the bonus. We hear a lot about businesses using bonuses to incentivize people to apply, but yes, it's taxed. And also these bonuses are not really matching the wage increases that some businesses are really trying to do that are successful in attracting new workers. And this is a generational shift, but many hourly associates want a seat at the table so they can be heard. They want to have direct connection to the GM, VP, president, or CEO. That's just a generational shift. You're going to be hearing more and more about that. Job seekers are looking for better healthcare benefits. Job seekers want to be fairly compensated, and companies that continue to lowball people have a hard time attracting new talent. That's just a shift we're seeing. We've got changes in the wage laws at the federal level being proposed. Illinois is stepping up. I think we're doing a year increase until we get to $15 an hour. So that's 3 years out. So we're going to see the impacts of that. Many job seekers will not apply for positions that have unrealistic job descriptions and qualifications. In my social media circles, you will see a lot of memes or online posts where it's $15 an hour asking for a master's degree, or $16 an hour with 10 years experience. And while it's good to laugh at, unfortunately, it's rather common. And so with the incoming debt bomb that's coming for our college graduates, combined with the need for workers, this is something that it's going to have to be addressed. College degrees are needed now just to get in the door, but the wages have to meet both the degree and the experience. And some businesses are learning that the hard way. Some workers have retired or they found new positions that pay more, offer flexible scheduling. This one was interesting, but this came from an HR manager. Some applicants will remove themselves from consideration for a position or ghost the hiring manager if they feel the hiring process is long and drawn out. So if companies aren't reacting to employees quickly enough, they're losing the good talent for those businesses that are responding quickly. And then many applicants will not complete the online application process if they're required to take an online personality or skills test. This is just a relic of pre-COVID that a lot of companies were using services or tests as part of their application process to weed out candidates. But if you've taken a look at any of these tests, they can be quite cumbersome or time consuming to do. So they're now, employees are seeing that, and it is driving them away from the application process. So next month, we want to get into more detail and maybe hear for some businesses locally that are experiencing this and what they're having to say. But this is just the general conversation that's coming out. Last month, I talked a little bit about the minimum wage, or the unemployment insurance issue, but this is just some other reasons we're hearing. So, and lastly, I just wanted to share real quickly, we really haven't covered this a lot in the last couple of years of the Jobs Committee, but this is something to keep in mind as as the economy reopens and shifts, is the gig economy. It seems to be in trouble. You know, it's not common. Uber is not a big presence in King County, but people still use it. But the data is showing that Airbnb rentals have shot up over 35% in the last year. And Uber, Lyft have jumped 40%. Food delivery apps are steadily upping their fees. And Sarah talked about the demand for online services and delivery services has not changed post-pandemic. But what has changed is the venture capital subsidizing these gig economy companies. The pandemic weeded out a lot of the startups, but a lot of them have gone out of business because they promised the services cheap and reliable compared to the competitors. But the fact is they're not being subsidized like they used to be as an indicator of the economy. So why I brought this up is just because we tend to not focus on the gig economy. When we talk about jobs here in King County, we want to make sure we talk about full-time or part-time positions that are stable, that provide benefits and that can better our community. So this is just some information I wanted to share. Of course, I'll take any questions. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. There are some troubling aspects to that as I listen to it that make me think on a generational basis that we're sort of in trouble. What seems to be the shift seems to be a pride in the effort, a work ethic that was the backbone of this nation for many, many years. And my confidence in that feels a little shaken as I listen to some of these shifts that are occurring and the things that job applicants now bristle at the notion of. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's when you see it online on a screen, you get a different sense of what employers are asking you for. They've always been asking you those things. They just used to do it in a handwritten application and then a job interview, but they were testing your skills and your knowledge and your personality all along. Now that seems to be more offensive to people. I don't have the answers for it, but like I say, it's a trend that is troubling. It seems that there is certainly still a lingering fatigue from pandemic, fear and fatigue. So, folks are reluctant to return. There's still an entrepreneurial spirit in this country, which is indicated by all the startups and I've got a great idea that's going to serve this pop-ups. But eventually, if there's not good value there, people are like, I'll go get my own, thanks, because that's too much to pay. When you did it really cheaply, it was, convenience. But so anyway, I thank you very much for the report. There's a lot in there, and I wish I knew more of the answers of, how to turn some of that a different direction.
And that's one of the things we want to focus on moving forward is that generational shift. Ron and I had discussed previously about at a future jobs committee meeting, bringing those groups that are trying to help out the future employees with their soft skills. That's one of the biggest generational shifts that I've heard from manufacturers and employers in the county is the just absolute difference in work ethic, work expectations, and work outcomes that the younger generations have from the prior generations. And that's something that we want to highlight because maybe we can learn something to help make some better outcomes.
We have to keep trying. Yep. All right. Mark, are you weighing in during this portion? Yeah.
No, thank you.
No?
If there's any questions.
Okay. Anybody? Yes, Tom, go ahead.
Hello, Mr. Davis. Thank you. And I've mentioned this aspect on several occasions, not too vociferously, but it may be a reminder. This idea of remote jobs via the high-speed internet and so on. I guess I'm understanding from complaints through our constituency out in the rural areas is that first of all, the high-speed internet is non-existent. And second of all, the companies will not allow the applicant an opportunity simply because they don't they won't work with the satellite type of medium for information. And so that puts everybody at a serious, in a serious dilemma. And now I know that the Agriculture Department of the United States has had earmarked certain amounts of dollars for the development of high-speed internet in the rural area. And that puts Kane County in a very unique position in that we have a superior posture simply because we are the ones that issue the license for the high-speed internet and the cable and the telephone and so on. With that said, here's the idea, is if we were the owners of the infrastructure, it could become a revenue source. And I was in the cable television business, and I can tell you it's fairly lucrative. And the industry changed. I got out of the business. I did not want to update the digital profession and the fiber optics and so on and so forth. I just didn't want to rebuild everything, so I got out of the business. But that is those aspects of that industry is commonplace, is normal. We're talking 5G now, and I even brought it up during some discussion about COVID expenditures, proper expenditures, and it turned out that it could have been considered a proper expenditure to develop high-speed internet, especially if we were to pump it into the schools and so on, under the auspices that the kids could have distant learning now in the rural areas. But there will be incentives coming up in the near future to develop high speed in the rural areas. There already has been, but we're not positioned to do that. We haven't given enough emphasis, and I was hoping that the Jobs Committee or Development could take a look at that and to see what the feasibility is, and if these grants do avail themselves, that we could attract some of the money and be the owners of that means of production. And I don't mean that from a collectivist standpoint, of course. I mean that as we could be a quasi-government relationship with our franchisees. And
Tom, I think I might have some good news for you on that front. I think the admin committee is the place you're looking for, where fortunately we have Mr. Fonstock, who quite a few years ago came to us and extolling the virtues of fiber optics and a fiber optic network, and asked for and received budget to pursue that. And we have done that. We have the beginning of a very good system. And in fact, it has been monetized. I believe we collect some revenue from a number of sources who have used space in that network. I think this is along the lines of what you're suggesting. So the good news is we did embrace that idea, and it is set up in a way that it could be expanded. In how many different ways or areas, I'm not sure, but certainly a discussion that we can continue to have. So thank you for the thought, though.
And if
definitely, I appreciate that, and I did speak with Mr. Fonstock 2 days ago, and on behalf of this specific issue, and in so many words, he says we're somewhat behind the eight ball on this, and if we could keep it alive and keep the discussion going, that's basically just offering a reminder.
And
So,
if I may, Mr. Copey, to respond to that, the American Recovery Plan, part of the infrastructure support that we could possibly spend our money on is part of that Wi-Fi. So keep abreast of it, advocate for it, because once the ARP committee starts meeting and we do our community outreach and perhaps work with some IGAs with our rural communities, that is something that I know for a fact they are interested in talking to us about. So we're at the very, very beginning, per recommendation of the committee as well as the board, to move forward with this. So
that's great news, and just let's see if we can develop something very prosperous for not only the community but for us also. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Your reminder and encouragement was well timed, Tom. So thank you. All right. Anybody else in the room or online? Any questions, comments? All right. Guess we can move on to new business. And if somebody would like to tell me of any that they have. About you? Got any new business? No? Looking around the room, not hearing anybody.
Hey, Mark, I have a question.
I'm the new kid, so I didn't come with any new business for you today, I guess. Yes, Tom, was that you?
Yeah, how's the reception? I was asked to change my mode of operandi. Is the reception okay?
It is now. There were a couple of moments where it was a little fuzzy, but we got there. You sound
okay.
Sounds pretty solid now. So wherever you are,
thank you.
Keep your head tilted exactly the way it is now, and don't move.
All right, thank you. Have a nice day.
You too. All right. Public comment. Not looking good for that. In that case, I would accept a motion to put the reports on file.
So moved.
Who was that?
Mr. Mo Iqbal.
Oh, thank you, Mo. Moved by Mo. Do I hear a second? Did Tom already leave?
Opie second.
There you go. Opie seconds. All right. Any questions, comments on the reports? Hearing none.
Davis?
Davis, yes.
Iqbal?
Iqbal, yes.
Copey?
Opie, yes.
Lewis? Molina? Ford?
A little late on votes. All right. Well, I'm not aware of an executive session needed today. So once more into the, we need one more motion to adjourn.
So moved. Mo Iqbal moved.
Thank you, Mo. Was that a second,
Opie,
Tom?
second.
All right, second.
Yeah.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye.